Memenon is a low skill cap monster in the cEDH meta. I'm going to compare him to Shigoki from For Honor. Shigoki is a character that has a limited moveset, but each one is extremely impactful. He exists in contrast to the high skill cap characters that are able to use a rapid series of smaller impactful moves in such a way that it creates a outsized impact if you can learn the sequences of buttons in the context in which to use them and have learned the skills in order to move along that decision tree optimally based on the behavior of other players. That last point, based on the behavior of other players, is the important point. Mememnon, low skill cap character, you're not necessarily concerned about the behavior of other players. In For Honor, of course, you're always concerned about the behavior of other players, but you have fewer decisions as Shigoki. So in that limited move set, you're not as concerned about what your opponent is doing because the decisions that you're making aren't going to change. The decision tree for you is not going to be altered by um, what your opponents are doing. So Mememnon, back to him, you're going to be doing that in an analogous fashion in cEDH. And what I mean by that is you're going to do the same thing every single game, regardless of what your opponents are doing. It really doesn't matter. The only thing that you control is how much throttle you give the Mememnon. Do I go really hard right now or do I pull back? In 90% of games, you're going to go hard. And the only real conceivable reason that you'd pull back is for a fish that you can outlast. Um, and that's pretty rare. That's basically the only thing that you're going to be pulling back on that throttle for. Other than that, you're just going to go full on Mememnon. Why does that work? Well, nobody stops the Mememnon. First off, there are 2 points of interaction. You can get the Mememnon or you can get the Aetherflux. The Aetherflux is the payoff, and if you force a negation that thing and it's gone, we can't win. False. No. We have Grinding Station. We have backup. If you counter it and it goes to the graveyard, we have a whole bunch of graveyard loops. We have the ability to cast our library, have any card in our deck in hand, on the field, tapped, untapped, in the graveyard, and we could even exile what we want. We can put whatever card where we want as soon as we have the Mememnon in critical mass. The only point of interaction is Mememnon. How much creature removal are you seeing floating around turn 2 or 3 when he's popping off? Not a whole lot, because most of it's 1 mana. And are they holding up that 1 mana? No. Is there a lot of free creature removal? No. Are you concerned about deflecting swat? They can deflecting swat the Aetherflux. You just cast enough in order to have enough life in order to go over the top. That's standard practice. Now, if you have more than one red deck at the table, guess what? We're going to play a couple more cards because we're going to have enough to Aetherflux twice over the top of both of you guys. We are holding that just in case. And so my point is that we have the ability to close out the game with Grinding Station, with looping the Aetherflux back in if it gets countered. Again, all these things, we have the ability to get the game wrapped unless you hit the Mememnon. You're saying, well, decks can hit the Mememnon, so obviously they are, and you shouldn't be winning games. Well, yes, there's Otawars, there's all sorts of stuff that sometimes are up on turn 3. I don't know how they got 4 mana or whatever for that thing, but sometimes it's up, and that sucks. But most of the time, what that involves is another person at the table diverting their game plan in order to throw that interaction at you. And most of the time, they don't. You can roll the dice and get it get a great situation most of the some of the time where you're going turn 1 or 2 and you've got the turn 3 hand, and so you can pop off there. That's kind of the standard scenario. Or you've got a turn 2 hand and you're in any seat. You could be a turn 2 hand and be in 4 seat. Doesn't really matter, and that happens often as well. So it's like that's kind of the starting position that you're going from, and rolling the dice and hoping that they just don't have any creature interaction, and then you're able to just roll through and take a dub. Let's say they do have some creature interaction. Well, yeah, you got unlucky. Most of the time, they're not going to use it. Like, everybody's preparing for the early game Breach, the early game Thoracle, where they can get the console. They're prepared to use free spells with stuff on the stack. And like I explained before, hitting the Aetherflux doesn't matter. So Mememnon, again, low skill cap. Let's go back to that. Now that you kind of understand what we're dealing with there. Low skill cap, there's not a lot of stuff that's going to happen along that progression of the game plan that's going to vary game to game. You're going to cast Memenon as fast as you can and spit stuff off the top, hopefully hit your defense grid, and then cast your Aetherflux and close out the game. And if there's a problem along the way, the fix for it is going to be very consistent, and the problem that you face is either going to be with the Memenon or the Aetherflux, and you're going to fix it the same way every single time. It's never going to change. And so once you learn that, you can take your grandma, teach her just that. It doesn't matter what everybody else is doing. She's not going to be needing to know what anybody else is doing because you don't have any interaction. The only thing that you got is the graveyard hate that is there just incidentally. Tormod's Crypt is a 0-drop artifact, and those happen to be good. So guess what? We have some graveyard hate. We got the Soul Guide Lantern because we ran out of things that are just 1 mana and can activate to adjust our top deck. So we need one section of things that's just 1 mana with a 1 cost activation in order to draw a card. And guess what? It also has some side utility, taking out graveyards. That's pretty sweet. We got a Phyrexian Furnace, which is really effective at being able to cost 1 mana, tap for a blue, and then have a mana from somewhere else, activate it to draw a card. And guess what? It also gets rid of graveyards. We got Scrabbling Claws doing the same thing, getting up in your graveyard. I had a game the other day where Relic of Progenitus came up and smacked somebody's graveyard. It was very nice. So those are the like interaction points. But other than that, you're not interacting. And if you're not interacting, you're not politicking. The big part of this thing is that you don't have force of will in your back pocket that you're going to be pitching at something that there's going to be a bunch of politics over. You're not negotiating for a draw. You're not trying to make somebody else out to be the huge threat that because you're not the good guy that's going to go and help out. So you don't have anything to say. You're just going to sit there in silence and play your game, and that's it. Like if you're a dude that's not that social, or maybe you're not a great of a politician, like how about you play Memenon? Like what I really don't want is a bunch of like angry, sweaty cEDH dudes who are just like, I suck at politics, but I'm gonna pick up Memenon and just fucking smash face. That's kind of the deck that it is. If you're that kind of player, I always welcome new Memenon players, but like tone it down. But dude, if you're not a good politician, come play Memenon. You don't have to. You don't have anything that you're going to politic over because guess what? Yeah, you are the threat. You don't have to be like, I'm not the threat. The only thing that you got to say is, yeah, I can hit 2 lands right off at the top and this could end right here. And there's a certain percentage chance of that happening. I don't know what it is, but we have to balance that against the threat that's right there. And if you think that there's a greater chance of me popping off versus them popping off, you can throw the interaction my way. But unless that's the case, I think that you should save it for that. That's all you have to say. You memorize exactly what I just said, word for word, fill in the blanks. You don't have to do any more politics. You're done. You're finished. That was all. And then learn when to pop the graveyard. Other than that, learn how to top deck cast and then mulligan. Don't go further than you have to in order to get the Memenon out, and then just top deck cast and don't mess up when you adjust the top deck. Like that's it. That's the whole thing. Anybody can do it. Every high power player now has access to this cEDH deck that can win games. Of course, it's not conventional. No, it's not a real cEDH deck in the eyes of many players, but guess what? It wins games against a lot of people. I think it's going to do fine in tournaments. And anybody can play it. So again, low skill cap with cool results. Not a lot of decision to be made along the tree, and the decisions that you do make are very obvious and they're consistent, and it doesn't depend on the behavior of your opponents. You just kind of do your thing, and it doesn't matter how they feel about it, so you don't really have to do any politicking, and that's kind of nice sometimes. It's kind of a roll of the dice. You're limiting the factors as like a good politician to maneuver the table and stuff like that. So there's fewer levers for you to manipulate. So, you're giving that up. But what's the payoff? Like if you don't manipulate those levers very well, then why do you even want them in the first place? And you can focus more on the things that you are doing well, and just become a bunker buster, just a homing missile, somebody that can just walk in with this particular deck and get consistent results, because that's all they do. Yeah, like there are going to be skills involved in playing Memenon. There's going to be good Memenon players and bad Memenon players, just like every other deck. And but the things that you have to learn and the gap between the very good and very bad Memenon players is going to be pretty small. So anyways, I would recommend trying it out because it's a lot of fun, and it works. So I don't really think I have anything else to go over at the moment. Sorry, this is a re-recording because the audio sucked on the last one. I'm just hoping it doesn't suck on this one. Let's go over just some channel stuff. We got like giveaway stuff in the back. I'm going to keep like piling things back here. We got some sleeves. We got some foundations packs. We've got just a random Lord of the Rings couple of set boosters. We got this Final Fantasy gift bundle. I got this mat signed by Cam and Dylan from that other cEDH channel. that can be given away here. All that stuff will be happening, but this channel's got to get big enough first. So do me a favor, take this cEDH video and send it to a high power player. I'm trying to pilfer the high power players because we need to drag more people into this, and this is accessible. They don't need to learn any of the highbrow stuff. They can come in and they can meme on these guys that think that they're better than them at the shop and are over there playing their little cEDH corner, and they roll in with their high power thing. They kind of look at them and they know they can't go over there. You can play Memenon and you can go over there and you can beat those guys, and you don't learn. You don't need to learn a thing more. Like, you just gotta watch. You gotta read the little primer that I put out. That's not that long. That explains the basic idea. Goldfish it once or twice in your basement. Eat some Cheetos. Grab a Mountain Dew. Go to the shop and win. That's it. That's all. So high power players, I want them. So cEDH players that are watching this video, take it and send it to them, and then you can subscribe, and then eventually we will have enough people to go and give away these things that you want, like this mat and that Final Fantasy gift bundle and these Lord of the Rings boosters. And please, my audio, please be good. All right, good talking. Take it easy.